Erdinger Pikantus.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. This is a bottle of Erdinger Pikantus. Now, if you've ever looked at my channel before and looked at my reviews of Erdinger, you'll know that I'm not a massive fan of Erdinger. It really is, for me, it's a wheat beer, yes, but for me it just doesn't really fulfil what I think a Bavarian wheat beer should taste like. And I have had, on occasion, in the past, the Dunkel, the normal Weisse beer that they do. I've had this stuff, which was to celebrate Liverpool's win. Not that I'm a fan of Liverpool, but that was to celebrate their win. Apparently it's Jurgen Klopp's favourite beer. He's a tosser anyway. Apparently that's his favourite beer, and you know, I just think, oh, sod off, will ya? Yeah, for me it just doesn't have the characteristics of a Bavarian wheat beer. And you know, when I think of wheat beer, I think of stuff like Weihenstephaner, I think of Schneider Weiss, even Franziskaner, which is at the, I wouldn't say at the lowest end, but it's at the slightly lower end of the wheat beer scale of quality, but it's still not a bad wheat beer. It still retains all the characteristics, but this stuff coming from Bavaria, it just completely bucks the trend. And sometimes bucking the trend is good, sometimes bucking the trend isn't good. Now, I know a lot of people who drink lager or are lager drinkers. They'll drink an Erdinger Weiss beer and they'll think it's okay because it doesn't contain them strong flavours of banana and clove, which aren't for everyone. It's a bit of a change from lager when you go straight into a wheat beer, a good quality wheat beer, and you get that clove flavour and you think, oh, I don't know what this is. Some people call that a medicinal flavour. And it's not for everyone, I do get that. But I think if you persist with it, it will get to the stage where you won't want to drink any other beer. And that's what happened to me. And I love wheat beer. It's one of my favourite styles of beer. Lately, I haven't been drinking so much of it. And the reason for that is because I only drink wheat beer for reviewing purposes. I mean, I do like wheat beer, don't get me wrong. If I'm out and about and there's wheat beer available in the bars, yes, I will definitely go for one. But I'll have the odd one here and there, and I won't make a habit of sessioning it because I've sessioned wheat beer in the past and I've always come a cropper. So you really have to sort of, I wouldn't say be careful of it, but it's usually slightly higher ABV. And that little bit of a higher ABV can push you over the edge. But I love it. It's one of my favourite styles, as I say. It's one of my favourite German styles of beer. And if it's done right, it can taste absolutely sublime. Erdinger, on the other hand, yeah, probably not my favourite. Now, I've tried the Dunkel as well, and I thought that might have changed a little bit, or it might have been a change to the normal standard Weiss beer that they do. That didn't really have any flavour in it either. This is their Pikantus. It's in the style of a Bock, and I think if this hasn't got any flavour, then yeah, you might as well give up on Erdinger. Now, I have slagged off Erdinger in the past, and I must admit I am quite harsh, and I was a bit wary about buying this stuff because, as I say, Erdinger, they've got different ideas about wheat beer than I have. What interested me on this, yes, it's a Bock, and if you taste the Schneider Weiss, I think it's the Aventus their Weizenbock is absolutely lovely. It's full of flavour, and I just think if this hasn't got flavour, then nothing will ever have flavour. But it talks a good fight. It uses that double maturation that they call it. We would know that as decoction mashing, or what they call in Germany, or certainly in Bavaria, Bayerisch Edelreifung, which basically means you boil, you let it rest, and then you pour some fresh water into it as well, and then you bottle it immediately. You don't pasteurise it. You let it mature in the bottle for maximum flavour. So again, I'm reiterating that this should have flavour. Weizenbock, by its nature, is a very strong wheat beer. Now, this is quite high in the ABV. I'll get onto that in the next section, which is good. That's what the AVB should be on one of these Weizenbock. So that's promising at least. A little bit about the brewery. I have gone over the history of the brewery in depth on the other videos, but I'll just give you a quick one. It's based in Erding. As far as I know, it hasn't been taken over by one of the big macro brewers like AB InBev or anyone like that. And it does surprise me that this is quite widely available over in the UK. You certainly see it in a lot of supermarkets. I even see it in some of the cheaper supermarkets, the smaller supermarkets. So it's quite widely available. But it's apparently still family owned. I think it has something to do with the Spartan. Oh no, that's Franziskaner. I'm lying. This stuff, I think this stuff is actually brewed in Germany and exported all over the world. I know you can get this in the United States. So if there's any American subscribers or viewers watching this, you can buy this. I've just looked at this. This is nearly out of date. It was out of date in November. But because it does it's out of date. Because it's bottle conditioned effectively, that shouldn't really matter. In fact, it should enhance the flavour. So, with that in mind, let's go on to the next section. Right, 500ml bottle. It is 7.3%, so it's quite hefty, which is what the average ABV for a Weizenbock beer is. And yeah, that's about it really. Conforms to the Reinheitsgebot, doesn't really mean much to me. As you know, the Reinheitsgebot is, I would at best say it is a marketing gimmick. It really doesn't denote pure ingredients, trust me on that one. So with that in mind, let's get it open and let's see what's going on. Right, now this is cold. It's come out of the fridge, which is sort of how you should drink it. You shouldn't really drink these beers warm. Well, I certainly wouldn't anyway. I like to have a bit of a chill on these Weizenbocks. I've had a few Weizenbocks in the past. They've been quite nice. But for me, Doppelbock is, well, this is the equivalent, the wheat beer equivalent of a Doppelbock. So, but it is, for me, one of the most flavoursome German beers you can get, in my opinion. And if you get a really good one, it's just so Moorish. And that's generally what the colour looks like. It looks like this. Now, I did do a bit of research on this before I decided to review it. And they suggest on the Erdinger website to get 2 glasses and share it as a Bavarian aperitif. I like the sound of that. But, well, yeah, I'm definitely getting some aroma from that. I'll get onto that in a minute. I noticed this glass is filthy. But can you see what I mean by that's a trademark of Erdinger. Their beer is so carbonated. But yeah, they suggest filling out 2 glasses, which is a bit strange for a Weizenbock, because if you've got yeast sediment, you really want to be getting that into, but unless of course they mean just pour 3/4 and then pour the rest in there. This is smelling strong. This might not be as bad as I'm making out. I am getting quite strong aromas. Real dark fruit, sweet dark fruit aromas coming from this. It's not as strong as it was, but it's definitely there. This is absolutely freezing cold as well. I want to get everything in the glass there. I want to get all the yeast in there, because that is where your flavour is in a wheat beer. It is all about the yeast. Actually, it might not be on these, because the malt is quite dominant in these Weisse and Bocks as well. There it is in the glass. That is a dark ruby colour, or brown, murky, murky brown ruby colour. Carbonation has calmed down a little bit. Aroma's calmed down as well. Okay, let's get it down the hatch. Bottoms up. Oh, I need to go again. I got mostly froth on that. It's all in me bloody beard and all. Right, let's try again. And that actually isn't bad. I do believe Erdinger have got something right. Let me dive in again. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. However, this wouldn't be an Erdinger video if I didn't slag it off a little bit. The flavours aren't massive. Now, a characteristic of a good Weizenbock is huge flavours. I mean, if you try the Schneider Weiss Aventus, that really does boast huge flavours, really moorish and quite refreshing as well. I mean, some people may not think that a beer of this strength and with such a full body can be refreshing, but that's what I got from the Aventus, and that got a 10 out of 10. This has got some of the flavour. I'll go over the flavours in a bit, but they're not as big. And you really, for all the boasting about the Dekochen mashing, or the Edelreifung as the Germans call it, I think this is slightly lacking. Don't get me wrong, it has got some flavour though. Yeah, so you get quite a lot of caramel malt and dark fruit. They're definitely there, I should say. And you just get a sense, if you've tasted other Weizenbocks, you just get a sense that them huge flavours just aren't there compared to the other beers. But it's still nice on its own merits. This isn't a bad beer, and it's probably the best one from Erdinger that I've tried so far. And I tried their Dunkel as well. It was the Dunkelweiss. It was very uninspiring. This isn't bad. Very full-bodied, but just with them subdued flavours. Now this really is cold. It's come out of the fridge. And the Aventus I tried come out the fridge, and that was really cold. However, and I'm going to compare it to Aventus because it's two Weizenbocks from Bavaria, so they're going to get compared. And to be honest, I think this again is lacking compared to that. But on its own merits, it's not a bad attempt at a Weizenbock. Very smooth, hasn't got that huge carbonation that you tend to find in the Weiss beer, but it does have there's a slight metallic, I perceive it to be a cross between like metal and sulphur. It sounds disgusting, but it isn't as bad as it sounds. But I do find that in a fair few Bavarian beers. Certainly found it in the Erdinger. Tucher is another one that has has that type of flavour too. You definitely wouldn't think this is 7.3%. There's no hint of spirit alcohol. Maybe if it was warmer, I may have got some more of that ethanol, but I'm not getting that on there. I'm just getting what I perceive to be big caramel malt and a lot of dark sweet fruit. Not much bitterness on there at all. Very agreeable. Certainly the most complex beer that Erdinger have done. And I would say it's one of their best. And it isn't that bad, I have to say. I can't help thinking if I'd get more flavours if it was slightly warmer, because it has come out of the fridge and that is cold. But you're sort of supposed to, or I think you're supposed to drink them at that temperature anyway. I don't think... All right, here comes Percy. What do you want? He's just been drinking. He's dripping water all over the floor. Oi, what do you think of this, mate? What do you think of that? It's nice, isn't it? You can tell a good beer when he sniffs one out, can't you, mate? Yeah, but I quite like it, and it's restored my faith a little bit in Erdinger. I was quite prepared to just slag this off and say it was, because I all the ones I've tried before, I thought this wasn't going to be a good one, but the flavours are there, and it does do everything that a Weizenbock should do. I wouldn't say it's the best. In fact, it's nowhere near the best, but it isn't bad. Oh, you're going down, mate. You're too heavy. Oh, a little bit of spice there now. Now it's warming up a little bit. I'm getting some other flavours. There's a little hint of spice on that. And Pikantus or pikant in German, means spicy. So again, that's fulfilling what it says on the bottle. Real subtle hint of spice on the back end. It's like cinnamon and ginger, but I mean it's really subtle, and I've just got a little suggestion of it on the finish. But yeah, not bad, not a bad effort from Erdinger. What are you looking at, Perch? Hey? What are you looking at? What's the verdict on Erdinger Pikantus? Well, it's restored my faith a little bit in Erdinger, and it's made me think that actually they might be able to brew a decent beer. And I think that's what they've done here. Now, Weizenbock is not for everyone. It's a very strong style of beer. It contains a lot of roasted malt, caramel malt, a lot of dark fruit, and a lot of alcohol. This is 7.3%, and it's not one for sessioning. Believe me, you wouldn't want to drink lots of bottles of this. You all right down there? He's making himself comfortable in a carry bag. That dog. It makes a big thing about the decoction mashing on there. Yeah, it hasn't really produced huge amounts of flavour compared to other Weizenbocks, but it's still worth a go. So what mark would I give it? Well, I don't think it's as good as a fair few of the Weizenbocks that I've tried, but it ain't a bad stab at it. and I'll be perfectly happy to giving that a 7.5 out of 10. It isn't that bad. Certainly not on a par with their Weiss beer, which in my opinion is probably the worst Weiss beer to come out of Bavaria. It's not for me. I know some people do like it and they drink it, and I used to drink it until I tasted the other Weiss beer, and I realised that actually it ain't that great. But this stuff isn't bad, and if I saw it in a pub, it would be unusual. I'd do a double take, but if I did, I'd definitely get a bottle of it. And I wouldn't go out of my way to buy it again online, because I know there's better out there. There's so much better out there. Certainly from Weihenstephaner, certainly from Schneider Weiss, and some of them other small breweries as well. If you look on my channel, I've reviewed a few of them, but they're the two that stand out for me, and they're two of the best breweries in Bavaria, in my opinion. But yeah, I wouldn't turn my nose up at this. I'd turn my nose up at their other beers, but not this one. This is a good one, and I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. Solid 7.5 out of 10, and I'd recommend it if you really do want to try a Weizenbock, but you're not too sure about the strong flavours. This is probably a good place to start. Yeah, lots of malt, caramel malt on that, lots of dark fruit, and a little touch of spice on the finish. Hefty ABV, and if you like this and then you want to try something more intense, then go for the other Weizenbocks that are out there. Go for the ones that come from Bavaria. I think that's the reason you would get the best. And if you want to go all out, all guns blazing, get the Schneider Weiss Aventus or the Weihenstephaner. I think it's the Corbinian. Is it the Corbinian? I've got a bottle of down here. A bit dusty. But yeah, the Weihenstephaner, they call it a Dunkel Stark beer. But that's, what ABV is that? Oh Christ, 7.4, so it's a little bit bigger. They're the two to go for. The Aventus, I don't think I've got a bottle of that, but the Weihenstephaner Corbinian, yeah, superb. But for me, the best one is the Aventus. That's just absolutely sublime. You can get it in cans, you can get it in bottles. I've got a mate in Edinburgh who sent me a photo of a beer fridge that was in Edinburgh, and the bastard didn't tell me he was going to Edinburgh, and I thought it was in my hometown, and I thought, wherever this is, I don't care, I'm going to it and getting some beer, but it turned out it's in Edinburgh. So there you go. Anyway, I'm rambling. 7.5 out of 10, and yeah, I'll recommend it. Best beer Erdinger do. And remember, beer is working class champagne.